Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today we're gonna check the formulas for critical rate and critical damage. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe if you enjoy the content. But before we even start, let me say thanks to Darius. He offered to explain this topic to me and he was really helpful. And there are some things that we still do not understand perfectly, but if you want to help out, please, we hear you in the comments. We can discuss. If you know anything about the formulas, you can let us know. And also, if there's anything that we find out or something to take into consideration that there's need to be changed about the video, we're gonna leave that in the comments for now. So keep an eye on the comments, just to know. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So we're gonna be using right now Astaroth. Astaroth is going to be our character for reference here. There we go. And I gotta do a quick change here. I just do this and I remove this right now because we're gonna need that later. So first of all, what is the crit stat? How does it work and how do we get this number? Well, here we have it. The crit stat is going to be a combination of various factors. Number one, the natural critical start of the character. And that you can see in this first number. For Astaroth, it's going to be 5,518. And what about this other big number? Well, that's a combination of stat training, that you can get a maximum of 490. The skin stats, which they give diverse stats depending on the skins, but you can check that number pretty easily. Weapon and sub-weapon stats both count, and the Magatama and sub-Magatama stats. Stats, not effects. So, let's check those in action. So, here we have the stat for the stat training, the stat for the critical in the customs, the weapons we check here. This is the natural stat of the weapon, as well as this one. And then the stats of the Magatamas. Very quickly, I'm going to change this so that we can check. Depending on the rarity of your Magatama, the stats that they're going to give when they're at max level. For SR Magatamas, it's going to be 557. And for UR Magatamas, it's going to be 696. So yeah, pretty useful. Stacking all those is going to give you this number. You can do the math and you're gonna see that's about right. So on top of that, there's another thing that we need to take into consideration, and that's gonna be the critical rate formula. What do we do to get the critical rate? So basically we're gonna grab this number and I write it here, and then I divide that by 4.76, and this number we put a point in the middle, and it's going to be 42.46. So 42.46. This is my critical rate, my natural critical rate with Astaroth. Then here we can see a list of different things that are going to affect the critical rate, and basically you just add them. The difficult part of the formula was that, the first step. The other things you just do an addition and that's it. So I do have my perfect skill training, so that's an extra 12.5%. And I do have the awakening skills, and this is the natural critical rate that I have. 75% critical rate, more or less. On top of that, I would have to add weapon effects, supporter effects, skills, and buffs. So keep that in mind. Very quickly, let me show you awakening skills. Very quickly, remember that critical chance for both range and melee is not a high priority on awakening skills. It should be one of the last things that you grab after enhancing the primary damage and defenses. Then for let me check. Skill training, here we have that 12%, 12.5%. And then Yeah, the skills. Some skills, usually the pure color skills, are gonna have extra critical rate. So if you activate the color buff, you're gonna be able to crit, which is pretty useful even on VR. Uh, but in any ways, it is not necessary sometimes, especially on normal content. It's not necessary this critical rate where you when you are at the end game. When you're at the beginning, it's super useful. Let's see. Uh, Weapon effect and supporter effect. Let's start with weapon effect, but for that I need to go with Micah. Micah has an excellent weapon for an example in the form of Lapis Prism, but well, it is not that great because it only gives you critical on the normal attacks. Juggernaut, Invincible Juggernaut only gives you crit on incendiary round, but I know a character who does have a weapon that gives critical rate, and that's gonna be Spinel. Spinel has this SR that gives you 28% critical rate. Though these effects are useful, basically you want them on things like the URs to make a synergy. This one gives you the critical chance of Boulder Quake increases by 70%. Wow, that's disgusting, right? So yeah, um, this one is almost guaranteed in normal content, and this one, it's doable on VR. That's what really matters. That you are able to crit on VR on specific skills that do get benefit from critting. Let's see. Back to Astaroth. So we have checked the weapon, the skill. For buffs, there's a couple characters I don't remember. Well, I guess I do remember. Where are you? Kurenai. Kurenai, for example, has God's Eye, which is going to give you a critical rate increase, and if you go green, you get an additional critical rate increase. So yeah, those both get added to the formula, and skill effect, support weapon. No, supporters. I'm missing supporters. For supporters, we have many supporters in the game that are going to give you a critical rate, like Suruga, like let's say there's also Micah. Micah, you need to be protected, but it's okay. There's gonna be other options, Lefria, for example, and there's a handful, if not the one, um, supporters who give you critical rate to your team. Right now, for example, Worshipper Lapis is an excellent example. It gives a ton of critical rate to demons, so it is very useful. Use that character. Well, that supporter. Let's see. There's also the effect of actives, which can give you buffs or just increase the critical rate, just like that. So, the Momochi weapons are a prime example of this. So, you may use all the different ways to increase your critical chance as you like, so that you can build a strategy that is cohesive. Now, then we reach the VR critical rate penalty. There's this issue in the game that critical is not working on VR because there is a penalty. It is supposed to be challenging content, and that makes sense. Though, if Gremory prefers to do something that we can actually craft ourselves, a challenge that we can craft, and players say, I actually want to take this demerit, that would be way more useful. Sorry if you hear, but there's a plane outside, so yeah. In any case, VR critical rate penalty. If you're on step 1 or step 5, well, from 1 to 5, you're gonna get 10% less critical rate. 6 to 9, 20% less critical rate. 10 to 14, 30% less critical rate. 15 to 19, 40% less critical rate. 20 to 24, 50% less critical rate. 25 to 29, 60% less critical rate. 30 to 34, 70% less critical rate. And from 35 beyond, you're gonna get 80% less critical rate. That's very aggressive and you're not able to crit. Well, actually, if you know all this information, there are some things that we can do to check how this works and if that's really the case. In regards to the damage formula, I was testing the numbers that Darius gave me, but I think that they're still in the work. Um, Let me show you. What do I want to do? Yeah, I think that this works just like that. So, uh, we already know how much critical rate Astaroth has. I haven't changed anything. She has like 75% critical rate. And about the damage, let's check the damage formula. So the damage formula says that the damage you deal, this damage, it's the non-crit damage. The non-crit damage is going to be multiplied by base crit damage. The base crit damage is always going to be 1.75. Whenever you crit, you multiply your natural damage by that. And then the weapon damage, the weapon critical damage is multiplied, which, for example, in my case, I have 4 perfect magatamas with 5 effects of 2.5. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to do 2.4 times 5 times 4. So I get a 48% critical damage increase. And that gets multiplied by the critical damage that I deal. So yeah, these magatamas are going to be useful, but I am not too sure how this works. Let me show you. For that, I need to go here. Yeah, perfect. So let's see if I managed to land a hit. That was a crit. A non-crit. Can I do a non-crit? Is that possible? Okay, 13. Around this. So if we multiply 1.75 and then 48, yeah, the numbers don't add up exactly, but they are around that. If I do, that was 14, so 1.75 and then 48. Yeah, I'm not sure, but this is around the damage. It's a little bit less than the formula is showing us. This is still a work in progress, guys, or maybe I confused something on the topic, so keep that in mind. It's something that I just learned about. So if there's anything that you want to explain to me on the comments, be sure to do so. If you find how much the formula needs to be, then that's useful. So in any case, let us check how to break PR. So on 41, I'm going to do a critical strategy. I'm using the mouse, so keep that in mind. So I do this. Basically, my character is going to be Ingrid. I already did the numbers, and this is going to give me around 70% critical rate, but I'm gonna do them again just for you to see. So this divided by 4.76. Let's see, is that correct? Yeah, correct. So thank you. So 39.41. 39.41. This is my critical. Then I add 12.5, which is the skill training, and the 20% of the awakening skills. 72% critical rate. Also, I have lapis with worshipper lapis, so that's an extra 30%. No. Erase. There, 30%. Then I'm also adding here Suruga. Suruga is going to be giving me 16%, and Micah. Micah is going to giving me 12%. 12%. Okay. So I got around 130%. Yeah. Let's keep it that way. And now, since we are beyond 35, we're gonna reduce the critical rate by 80%. So I got a 50% chance to crit with every attack. But that's not all. We also got the Bouquet Sword on Anna Rose, and whenever she uses Darkness, my characters are going to get a 50% critical rate increase. So basically, it's going to be guaranteed that I crit, or well, almost guaranteed that I crit whenever there's Darkness. And there's one more thing that I could add, but I'm not going to be using it because I'm using the keyboard right now. And it's the active of the Momochi weapon. With the active of the Momochi weapon, I would add 36% more critical rate. 36%. Yeah, that's going to be an 85% critical rate. So it's really, really good. And I can do this because of the critical damage. So let's check super quickly. There we go. Just checking if everything was in order, but I think it is. So focus on Ingrid. The damage that she deals. You can see that she crits a lot, and this skill, I again forget, this skill is going to give me critical rate, 50% critical rate. So basically it always crits, with some exceptions perhaps, but in theory this is how it should be. Critting. Oh, now it's immune to melee, so I have to wait. Unfortunately, I don't have what's the name? Oh, this girl, Phantasma on this specific build. But look at those crits. If we know how the formula works, it's not that hard to actually win or do builds that rely on crit on BR. I mean, of course you need the resources, of course. That's out of the question, but I mean, it's doable. And you know how much you need to actually crit. And this will give me 100% critical guaranteed with Ingrid, but unfortunately immunity to melee. Yeah, take this there. So as you can see, Ingrid was reliably critting because I did a whole strategy that revolves around getting just enough critical rate to actually be a thing. But we cannot do that if Gremory doesn't tell us the numbers that we're working with. So I encourage Gremory to be a little bit more transparent. They can even do this as, I don't know, developer notes every now and then that they share, and they explain certain things. They answer certain frequently asked questions about the game. Like, how does this stat works? What are the damage formulas? What about the supporters, because that's also a topic, that have this kind of effect? Reduce damage taken from all enemies by X amount for ally demon type characters. The ally in English implies that this only works for the characters that don't have this equipped. But I guess that it would be more accurate to say for the team demon type characters, because this would include the character who has it equipped or something like that. So it would be very, very nice of Gremory to try and do that every now and then, as much as they can, because we can do it, but it's so difficult to do so when this is such a niche game and there's few people talking about it, and not everyone is going to be able to check the code and see how it works, or do a million tests so that they can do the math behind it. So yeah, Gregory, please be a little bit more transparent. If you have something else to mention, if you understood how the damage formula works and can explain it better in the comment section, you can let us know. Uh, this is a work in progress, guys. Not everything is gonna be perfect, but I encourage you to help out on the community, to help out fill the wiki, to help out find this information so that we can share it. And if you want to contact me and mention something that I haven't said previously, I have already shared my username on Discord. So I mean, I'm always there for you, and whatever you need, you can contact me. So that's gonna be it for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Bye.